I'm glad you're here. This is such you know, I, there's never been a time in my life where I've sensed more instability, just kind of, groundlessness. In terms of like what we're all experiencing. And so talking about the breath, in particular focusing on the stabilizing quality that it offers us, I can think of nothing more important, like really nothing more important. So glad you're here. And as is our tradition in our Sangha here, we take a moment at the beginning to arrive. So doing that now, you can set yourself up to be comfortable. Eliminate distractions. If you were here with me, if we were together in person, right, your phone would be somewhere else. You would be just present. And there's something just in that that's nourishing. So give that to yourself. Eliminate distractions and get comfortable, and then just connect with how the body is. How's your body? I didn't have my phone turned off. And how's your mind? And we're just starting to notice what we notice. How present do you feel? And we're starting to become more mindful of our awareness, mindful of our experience without judging it, right? So, you might be feeling really relaxed, or you might be feeling really stressed. Maybe you feel really at ease, or maybe you feel restless and anxious, or something in between. Maybe you're confused. Maybe you're like, I have no idea. Okay, good. Like, we'll call that confusion. A big part of what we do, in our practice is just connect to how it is for us. So often we're unaware. And we have missed the way we're judging what we're aware of. In terms of I don't know of a person who doesn't suffer from a lot of inner criticism. And so then noticing what your intention is. Like, what is it that you're most needing to feel or receive? And really check in with yourself here. You can go right to your heart and allow the question to bring forth a response. That's inquiry. I love inquiry, yeah? In school, I learned that questions were for me to show if it was good enough or not, yeah? Like, questions were asked, like, do you know the answer? You should know the answer before the question's even asked, and it's to test, do you know? But here, it's not what questions do. We allow the question to invite the answer forward, and we'll live inside the question as long as need be. I see you typing. Yeah, so put it in there. Thank you, Joanne. Release from judgment of my anxiety. Ah, yeah. Yeah. Two things, right, happening. There's the anxiety and the judgment you have about it. All the things you make it mean about you, right? Like, I am the same way. We all are, right? So thank you for sharing that. It's good to become mindful of that. I'll wait for one more, and then I want to dive in. And I'll come back to the chat. Marilyn, it was so good to see you in yoga last week. Connection with my imperfect internal peace. Oh, yeah, good. Lauren, willingness to live in the present. Good. You're in the right place. Beautiful. So once you just notice your intention, whether you share it with me or not, it is really part of our practice is intention. You had an intention that brought you here, right? But our practice is threaded through with intention. Without intention, we're unconscious, yeah? And we're just kind of living through our old conditioning, which is based on the past. And so, yeah, what is the intention? And then let it go. Let it go. And I'll start with a talk. I've already done that. I've already started with the talk. And then we're going to move into the sit. I like to incorporate pieces, not just me, this is traditional when we give Dharma talks and offer meditations, that my instructions for the meditation will be influenced by the talk, yes. So we're going to be practicing in our meditation today, mindfulness breathing. Why? Why? It's so, when I reflect on my breath and I feel my breath and I go deep with it, it's kind of remarkable that we don't spend more time with it, that we don't kind of pause. It's continuously giving us evidence of how, of its, I guess, it's like, it's so paramount. It's so provocative in our necessity of it, right? But we forget that we actually need our breath just to live here, in this human experience. Without breath, it's not here. Isn't that interesting? And yet part of our part of our nervous system and the way we learn is to habituate, right? So the breath, the brain, once it learns something, right? And it starts to put things on autopilot in terms of what it becomes aware of. And I'll talk more about that, but it's good to notice that we have forgotten about the breath in a way that we may not, like when we're babies, little babies. And if you see a little baby and watch them, sleeping, you'll notice this, they breathe with their whole belly. Little babies don't have second thoughts about themselves. They haven't learned to doubt. They haven't learned to take refuge inside the false refuge, as Tara Brach uses that languaging of thinking, right? So there's something interesting about that too. Some more things. So I'll talk more about the breath. I'll stop talking at about halfway through 10:30ish, and then we'll sit together. Your donations make a difference. So these are offered by donation. They're freely offered. Like if you can't make a donation, please come anyway. But if you can, it does make a difference, and I really appreciate that. I'm gonna pull up my notes. I called this talk Tranquility on Demand. I don't know, I'm kind of pleased with that title with myself. I don't ever use like on demand. It annoys me how impatient I can be, and we are as a culture. And it does annoy me sometimes with students and the ways that I need to word things for folks to listen. I didn't mean that with this, but I appreciated that this is actually a true sell. In terms of like, and we'll talk more about this, but the breath can be a sure thing in terms of easing us, soothing us. We always have access to it on demand. Yeah. And it does have a tranquilizing capacity, which in our times right now feels really nice to me. To just be a little more at ease inside my own skin, to experience some tranquility. Yes, please. Have you noticed that external conditions are not offering it up? Any ways in which we were feeling some semblance of ease or okayness by borrowing it from the future? It's not happening right now, right? And so we're real aware of the heightened, this heightened level of dis-ease. If, especially if, say, our practice was to borrow safety and security from the future to feel okay now, which, like, by the way, is our practice to some degree, all of us here. And knowing that, being more mindful of it and how it happens can help us find true refuge, which is part of our talk today. I just wanted to mention, like, mindfulness, what is it? I don't know. No, I mean, there's so many different definitions of it, yeah. But it's really awareness. My definition is awareness of the present and everything noticed without judgment. I even more specifically, it's without shame. It's without shame. Imagine that. Because implicit to the judgment we have about our own anxiety, or the judgment that we have about our own anger, or the judgment we have about our own craving mind and addictions, is shame. This is why it's painful. It's not the noticing of these things that's painful. It's the shame that's added to it. The second arrow is what the Buddha called it. This is a quote. This was taken from an article that I read in Tricycle by Beth Wallace. The practice of mindful breathing is an act of self-love, a declaration of gratitude for this life, and a political act of empowerment in which we choose the present moment, even when that moment is filled with mourning. The golden rule of grief, one of the many lessons I relearned over the last 12 months, is that grief contains love. Loss contains love. Grief is an expression of the loss of something meaningful, which means I had, at least for a time, the opportunity to experience love, true, real, meaningful, heartfelt love. The Buddha, interestingly enough, the breath is mentioned in all of the different traditions of Buddhism. I mean, you know, the big ones that we think about, the Zen tradition in both the Soto and the Rinzai. Rinzai is the practice of asking koans. I've practiced in the Soto Zen tradition, which we'll touch upon in today's meditation when we work with the hara in our breathing. So, and in the Theravadan tradition, which we think about Vipassana, you know, Spirit Rock, where I go to a lot, I'll be there next week actually, is in the Theravadan tradition of Buddhism, the Thai forest lineage. And then we have the Vajrayana tradition, which I'm least familiar with, but the Tibetan Buddhism. All of these contain the breath. And the Buddha called, it was contained in all of the foundations of mindfulness. The Pali term is for mindfulness of breathing is anapanasati. And it does flow through all the foundations of mindfulness. And when we talk about the foundations of mindfulness, let's not forget why we were practicing. That there is a promise, and it's so important that we have confidence in our capacities to awaken. We have these little awakenings and these big awakenings inside of practice, but it's this connection to peace. It's imperfect, as Marilyn mentioned in the intention in the chat, but it's like when we taste it, when we touch it, we feel like home. I mean, it's not like life needs to change. Good thing, right? Because at this point in our life, we need to have that the jig is up moment of, oh, this imperfect peace doesn't come from getting the status or the money or the friendships or the partner or the kids or the health, like, or name your thing, or the alcohol. or the, it's like the chocolate. It actually, like, get it, right? We've had so much life experience at this point. If it came from there, I wouldn't be talking about this. You wouldn't be here. It's really important that we like wake up out of that and see that it doesn't come from anything later being a particular way. And there's no place that we're getting where there is a perfect peace. And so we take the backward step, right? And we remember, but it doesn't mean that the longing for peace doesn't mean that like that's not a possibility. It's just we have to look for love in the right places, not the wrong ones, like the country song or whatever. Urban Cowboy. My mom watched that movie like a gajillion times. Not the best modeling of the healthy masculine for folks who are identify as like feminine, whatever, it's just kind of funny when I reflect on that, so anyway, we're looking for love in the right places, and we work with the breathing itself in the first foundation of mindfulness. I just want to touch upon them briefly because they were the very simple instructions of the Buddha. We can't speak of the breath without talking about our bodies. I want you to sense how your breath is moving your body now. Now, to stay with your breath, and I mean the felt sense of your breath, we need to be in the body. We can't have both. Yeah, you can kind of sense how that's true. Sensing the body as refuge, the body as a practice, like a point of practice here. Now you'll leave it as I explore more of the talk, but I want you to sense this is a place you can come back to. And this was the Buddha's first instruction, mindfulness of the breath in the body. This is kept as we open up to mindfulness of feeling states, Vedana, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Right now, we have different feeling states happening. Some are pleasant, some are unpleasant, a lot neutral. Like, when was the last time you felt inside your ears? I mean, I don't know, maybe the last time I asked you to, because I use this one a lot, but I bring our awareness to it because they're usually neutral unless there's an earache. Our awareness is oft pulled quite strongly towards pleasant, unpleasant, and we often check out of neutral. Yeah. Boredom is often the gateway through there. That's why you'll go on retreat. Even a day-long retreat, if it's a good one, will provoke some amount of boredom. And it's there in which we start to explore the richness of neutral experience. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's like other worlds in here worthy of exploration. And so then we open up to mind or emotional states. Maybe you're aware right now of some flavor of happy or sad or angry or afraid or annoyed, or, these are the heart mind states. And we actually include the thoughts in that. So heart mind states provoke thoughts. Yeah. And then like thoughts on thoughts on thoughts on thoughts on thoughts. If we don't, if we're disconnected, if we don't notice it, we don't have mindfulness of thinking. Which is why, by the way, mindfulness of the breath is such a good, and being in the body is relatively stable Thoughts aren't. You can go to them. You can have a whole romantic relationship and divorce in the span of like 3 minutes in your mind. I mean, I don't know that for surezies, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like your mind is not stable when I'm speaking of the thinking mind. Not stable. What happens between the ears? It's very all over the place sometimes and fast, 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 not stable. If our awareness is seduced by that on a regular basis, we don't feel stable, ungrounded. I've been hearing that from a lot of students and experiencing it too in my own practice. Where is it all going? How's it all going to be? We keep trying to get refuge from the future. And the more we try to do it, the more despair we feel. Because, you know, it's like, it's all, you know, it's like, it's not a good refuge. It's, you know, it never has been a fail-proof refuge or a good refuge or a reliable refuge, but we can really see that now. The body is relatively stable now, relatively. I mean, it's got its aches and pains, it's got its cravings, it's got its stuff, but it's pretty stable here in the present moment. And then breathing, as it's tied to our bodies, has that stability. I had to reflect, and I shared it in my email on different teachings of the breath that the breath has taught me throughout my life. And I have a lot of experience with the pain or the suffering associated with not leaning into the breath. But I also have some stories of kind of miracles that have happened when I have leaned into the breath. And I shared the one of like my recollection in the email that I sent, which you may have or may not have read, where it was like the night before Christmas Eve. And we had gathered, I don't remember why, but we were at my grandmother's house, my Nana's house, and my cousin was there. So I imagine we were all going to be like having an early Christmas or something. And so I'm sorry, I'm seeing some things in the chat, so I just wanted to make sure you're all okay. I said we couldn't sleep, right? Christmas, you can't sleep at night. And we were both like, ooh. And I said, listen, and I remember, you know, you just stay with your breath. I have a trick. I called it a trick. And I had taught, you know, because it was the way that I had learned to put myself to sleep, in and out. And I said, just stay with in, out. Just stay with it. You'll fall asleep, guaranteed. And we both did. Now it was the staying with the in and out. It's the staying, because what can't you do when you're staying with the in and out? You can't be thinking about how excited you are, right? There's just the feeling of residue in your body, which we work with when we bring mindfulness to the breath. It's not that the residue goes away. Some of it's karmic residue from the past, and some of it's related to the present moment. But we're not feeding it. We're not fueling it with our attention. It's the breath becomes an anchor. Whereas before, awareness is always noticing something. And it's conditioned to be pulled towards dramatic melodrama. What could go wrong? It loves a good melodrama. Right? Like the more emotionally potent the thought, the more we're drawn to it. It has a gravitational pull, right? And mindfulness of the breath really shows us this. That's why it's such a useful practice. Because we notice what has control over us. Like we notice where the mind wants to go, and there's no judgment. It's like a celebration. It can be like, wow, I didn't realize oh my gosh, like bring the awareness back to the breath. I mean, this was key for me later on in my life when I was having a lot of anxiety and panic attacks for apparently no reason. Good job. I was engaged. It's before I married my husband. And we never got married, the other person, but I was engaged to this person. And everything was good, I mean, relatively speaking, it looked really good. And I felt like it was really painful. And thanks to my practice, I can't bring I don't remember in my body how deeply scary it was, but I can remember I remember it was very scary, and I was like having and it was my breath, the instructions of mindfulness of breathing, because I'd sought meditation to help me. I didn't know what else to do. And first foundation, the breath was the first anchor. My mind was wild. I couldn't stay connected to it. I was a terrible meditator, I thought. But over time, I stayed with the practice. I kept with it because there's something to it. There was something relieving about the permission not to entertain all of my fear all the time, because I felt like I had to be like sorting my life out all the time for everything to be okay. And when you're mindful of the breath, you can't do that anymore. You have to let go. And that there was a structure for that, I found very reassuring, because there's a part of us oftentimes when we begin mindfulness of the breath that feels like, whoa, wait a second, no, you have to be worrying right now. You can't be breathing. Like, we got to be worrying because that's the conditioning. I mean, that was mine. That might be yours. Yours might be something else. Like, oh no, we've got to be busy doing something, like, because I have to be productive to be worthy. Like, all of our shit comes up when we start to be aware of the shit, which is good news, not something to be judged, but we can sense the breath and how it can give us more view, how it can actually give us more clarity about what's actually happening, because we're seeing the ways we leave ourselves, right? It was like, for me, when I was a kid, like in high school though, too, like I couldn't be okay if my mom wasn't okay. Well, my mom was never okay. So I was really preoccupied with trying to get her okay. Right? Like, I had no connection to my experience. And the breath was like the first way I was able to start to inhabit my body, and then I was able to see the thoughts that were provoking panic. That was a big turning point for me in my, healing of that level of fear, which was trauma related, that was emerging in my system when I was like 27. It's funny. A lot of clients find me at that age. There's something really, there's something about that time. Just a few more things and we're going to sit. Kabir shared this about the breath. Are you looking for me? I'm in the next seat. My shoulder is against yours. You will not find me in the stupas, not in Indian shrine rooms, nor in synagogues, nor in cathedrals, not in masses, nor kirtans, not in legs winding around your own neck, nor in eating nothing but vegetables. When you really look for me, you will see me instantly. You will see me in the tiniest house of time. Student, tell me, what is God? He is the breath inside the breath. When we take breath and we look at the Latin root, it translates as spirit. And being with the breath, kind of start to slow things down. We're going to start to enter into our sit now. So I want you to make sure, if you need to get, change posture at all, go ahead and do that. Because this being with our breath and what it feels like to be with our breath, it's different for everyone. There's no right way to have a relationship with your breath, but there is a relationship with your breath. And so we're just kind of inquiring into that now for us. What's the feeling for you of being intimate with your breath? Like, and for me, it's different breath to breath, really, and sit to sit. But I want you to just draw awareness to it and start to sense this as being you relating to your breath. It's not an object to be used. We're having a relationship with it. Now, shamatha practice, which is an aspect of mindfulness practice, can be a standalone practice, which it will be for us today. One pointed practice. Or it can be the beginning of a more open awareness sit, which is what we usually do in our sits, in Vipassana. But shamatha is concentration meditation. And in this practice, like we know that when we draw awareness to one object, this feeling of our breath in and out, it stabilizes the mind by cultivating a steady awareness of the object of meditation. So there's this understanding, we know this too through study, that just focusing, right, on one object, and for our purposes here, it'll be the breath, that shamatha practice is in and of itself stabilizing. And so when we marry it to breath, it can bring forth, but we don't look for it, but it can bring forth this connection to imperfect peace that is woven through presence. Now, if you're in a chair, your feet, you don't cross your legs. You want to uncross your legs and you can bring your feet on the floor. Back is away from your chair, unless you sense your practice today needs to be about like really leaning against something. Maybe the back is tender or you're really tired. If you feel sleepy, you can always stand up. We're not deepening the breath. This is important. Because as we start to bring a more awareness to the breath, we might also notice our tendency to control. So you don't have to stop controlling your breath, but you want to be mindful of that kind of control, the control, kind of part of you that wants to control, and let that be kind of part, kind of folded into mindfulness of breathing, just feeling the natural inhale and exhale. Feeling. Spending a few minutes in silence, just attuning to this. Staying with it as best as you can, all the way through, from beginning to end. We're not trusting anything that takes us away from our breathing. You can trust the simplicity of this. And in the beginning, we can really encourage ourselves to stay with the simplicity, just to stay. Aware of the feeling of breathing in, aware of the feeling of breathing out. We don't have to try to concentrate. It does take some intention to stay with your breath. We may become aware of evaluation of how we're doing. And know that that evaluation isn't wrong. It's just extra. Breathing easy. There may be places in our bodies that have tightened up or have just been tight. We can soften. The body being as easeful as is available. You might notice a soothing rhythm to in and out, just the ebb and flow. Noticing the breath's soothing quality. And just staying with it as best as you can. Anything that comes between you and just feeling the breath, know that that's a thought. You notice you've gotten carried away, just it's as simple as relaxing and picking the breath up again wherever it is. We're not obliterating thinking or feeling. We're breathing through and with. The breath remains at the forefront of awareness. And bring a hand to our hearts, just for the chest. As we come to the end of our sit, we'll offer some metta to ourselves, to each other, and to all beings in the 4 directions, the 10 directions. We'll chant for we 3 times, taking a deep breath in. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be happy. Orient is, if the eyes were closed, it's taking a moment to orient to your space again. And just to orient to yourself again and just, notice how it is. There may be a little bit more imperfect peace that you can actually taste. Notice how it tastes in the body. And then I'd love for you to share in the chat anything that you're taking away from our time together. And I want to thank you for coming. Next week, we will not have a sit. I will be gone. So the week after that, I will be back. So that means I will be back June 21st will be our next sit together, 10 a.m. PT. I will be offering another day-long retreat in September. The date for that is September 17th, Saturday, September 17th. If you know you could use that and would like that, you might, mark that in your calendar. It's not up yet to register, but I'll let you know when it is. Feel free to leave a donation on your way out if you didn't on your way in. And let me read some of the comments here. Mm-hmm. Shannon, so much pulling me out of the present moment. It feels great to practice together. Thank you. Yeah, I know, right, Joanne? I forget what a wonderful friend my breath is. Isn't it the truth? Habituation, right? Habituation. David White said, alertness is the hidden discipline of familiarity. Familiarity is our friend to some degree, and then it ceases to be. Just think about a relationship that matters to you, with someone you've known for a really long time, and you can see how it's true. We start to take our breath for granted. It's just a reflection of other relationships too. It's habituation. That's why practice is important. Feeling more calm, Marilyn, and grounded. Thank you, Karina, for holding this space for practice and sharing your studies and wisdom with us. You're welcome, Marilyn. Lauren, thank you so much. Feeling much more at ease. Yeah, good. Let us all take the breath with us today. It doesn't stop here, right? Let us all take it with us. Seriously, every aspect of your day today, what would it be like? I wonder. Let's see if we kept our breath in the forefront. Yeah, like I wonder what that would be like. And I look forward to seeing you again. So good to practice with you